Welcome back, everyone, to the Q Show. And today we're going to be diving into something fresh, something very important, especially in the world of tech, in the world of programming, and that is vibe coding. Now, of course, vibe coding is a new wave in which programmers tend to build code. So today we're going to be understanding more about what vibe coding is. We're going to be looking at some of the things that has been done within QSoft as a whole and how it has helped us as programmers to be able to um, work faster. We're also going to be looking at the issues, some of the things with vibe coding, because is it a golden uh, magic wand that you can just wave at your computer and the website pops up, or something amazing happen? So is this something like that? So these are all we're going to be, these are the things that will be guiding our conversation for the whole of this podcast. So to start with, I'm going to go around the participant, and they will just give us a very brief understanding of what vibe coding is from their own standpoint. And from there, we're going to move on into individual person. So we're going to start with the CEO in person of Ibukundairo, just a brief understanding of what vibe coding is from his perspective.
Yeah, thank you. I feel like so vibe coding is like the hottest topic right now. It's also very controversial because a lot of software engineers kind of skeptical about it, and there's a term now that we have AI slop. But I but I feel like it could be more than that. I feel you can. It's the next thing in terms of we used to have zeros and ones. We had assembly languages, we had low level languages, we had the high level languages. And this is just a natural progression of programming languages. So now we have the natural language where you can just type in English. Even some of these browsers now, you can actually speak to it. You can use a microphone to just tell it what you want. You don't even have to type. You can just instruct it, build me a website, fix this bug, and it's going to do it for you. And also it kind of expands the net of what we can define as a programmer, because now someone without basic knowledge of computer science can just open up a browser or even just open up a web page and just say, make this thing for me, and then it will generate complex code for you. So that's what the vibe is.
Yeah, generating complex code that the person cannot debug, cannot read,
Yeah.
cannot even understand or explain to anybody. Yeah. Do you think vibe coding would replace traditional coding? And what's your perspective about vibe coding? Can it coexist?
Well, yeah, I'm probably the most skeptical about vibe coding in the team. I think even throughout the early period of this year requires me, just let AI do this thing. I mean, I'm like, nah, I'm not a big fan of vibe coding, really, because everybody now claims to be a software developer or a programmer. But then, um, the the reality of things is that it has come to stay, and software development as we know it is changing. I mean, I don't think it's totally going to replace software engineers because I mean, as we would maybe find out in the course of the conversation, vibe coding has like limitations in terms of a huge chunk of the time when I'm doing stuff, I still have to use like my knowledge as an actual engineer because if you don't exactly know what you're trying to do, there's a limit to how much vibe you can describe. Yeah, or at least that's the way I see it. You can just keep saying do this, but you don't exactly know some of the technical requirement, depending on what sort of system you're using. Yeah, if you don't exactly have the technical knowledge of some things, I think there's going to be some sort of limitation, especially if you're building something. Okay, for instance, now I found out that it's easy for me to just to tell an AI tool to maybe build me a page or something from its own end, right? But if I have an actual design I'm trying to follow, a chunk of the time, it doesn't exactly get it. It has improved over time now, but a chunk of time doesn't exactly get what I'm trying to do until maybe I just code part of it myself and then uh, he gets to do the other stuff. So most times now I do some basic UI layouts and then I just tell it to mix and match stuff. But then if I don't have an idea in mind, a picture in mind, you can just do something and then we find what he has done. So like I still have to use a chunk of my own technical knowledge when you learn vibe coding. There's also the argument there might be a prompting issue. Left to me, I don't think it's going to totally replace, but it's just going to maybe improve software development as we know it. Traditional developers will probably fight this for a long time, but I think the reality of things is we're going to have to like an adapt and start using it as opposed to the traditional way of programming. Yes, I think that's like my take on replacing or not replacing.
Yeah, yeah, I'm very bullish on vibe coding. But yeah, I mean, there has to be like balance to it. So
Yeah. So talking about the trend, moving trends, and how things has been going. So for me, my perspective is just as when we were in school, I mean, decades ago, right? And Google was just becoming a thing, and your teachers,
Sorry, you said decades ago.
yes, yes, you're not that old.
Wow,
yeah, true, 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 true.
wow.
My bad. Years ago. So years ago, when we were still in school, secondary school or high school, as some other part of the world would call it, we'll be given some assignments, some take home, and the teachers will tell you, do not use Google. Do not use Google. Go to the library, go and read from the library before you answer. I mean, now I don't think anybody will really say that now, that don't use Google to answer a question. And that's how I actually see vibe coding, especially in this trend of things, that it has come to stay, just as Ifea said. As long as you know the basics well, you are able to work with it better. And I'll just start with this. I'll give you an example of that, and we'll actually go around to see how each one of us have used vibe coding. So specifically, I'm going to talk about one of the projects that we've been working on in the company where it has been primarily vibe coding. And I'm going to talk about the experience, how fast it has been. And we built we're building, well, we've built and we are fine tuning now complex websites with vibe coding. We just send in the command, oh, can you look at this interface, design the login page, design the user page, design the database, just sending in the command. And what I discover is that something that would have taken months of planning, going back and forth, thinking, sitting down with a bunch of people to code and pushing the code. It literally took a weekend. I started on Friday evening, and by Saturday evening, I was done. And specifically, it was I used Figma Make to be specific, to design the whole front end, and the code works fine. And I remember one of the comments about that Ibuku made after it was completed was that the way it's transitioned from a web page to phone page, when you look at it, when you click on the view, it is so smooth that even if you're to hire a programmer, it may not really get that smooth. And then it got me thinking that actually and I mean, the whole system, the whole experience got me thinking that actually this is good. And good in the sense that it really, a lot of things, cuts away a lot of excesses, lets you focus on more things. For example, instead of having to think about, I want to be able to code this, or I want to add light something, I want to, let's say, add this feature. Instead of thinking about how to code it, I can think about how the future will function in such a way that it adds to the overall outlook of the old system to make it better. I can think about how the specifics of that future in relation to people interacting with the old system. So that those are the things I can now think about instead of thinking about how to code that future. So that is one of the experience I've had, which for me, it was just amazing. Like instead of going weeks, now you can do things in days. Instead of going months, you can do things in days. And that's one of the sweetest experience. So let me start from Mubin. So can you tell us one of your good experiences with vibe coding?
Okay, thank you. So ideally, like you said, most things take a very long time. Features take time to build. And one of the best parts of vibe coding is most of the boilerplate code, are taken care of so long as you already have a perfect structure. And what I mean is you need to ensure that you structure the prompts and like you have a working document. So, okay, I'll give you an example. So, on a side project I was working on, so the first thing I did was mainly to first create the feature document. So you need to have the user story and everything. You need to know what this is going to be about. Then it drafts out all the features. You iterate until you have the perfect structure. Then eventually you start coding out each feature little by little, and you make sure you start with the core, feature, so that once you get that working, you can easily build on top of that. So these things take like a lot of time, ideally, but with this AI tools now, you can just build things in a weekend. Maybe not the perfect thing, but you're able to quickly prototype and validate your idea like almost instantly, and then fine tune and keep refining. And yeah, at work as well, you know, when you need to solve a bug, sometimes you might be looking at the code trying to figure out where the issue is. But when you just, give the AI the snippets, it's able to easily detect some of the things you might have missed. These are some of the wonderful experiences. Of course, there are also bad experiences, but I would leave that to maybe when we start talking about bad experiences. Yeah, that's my take on that.
All right, thank you. So let's hear from Ife.
So I think, yeah, the Qlos platform, that we did, yeah, that we use right now. I finally started coding that on my own. Though eventually, I think it was in Google. I kept saying I should just switch to pipe coding, and I'll just waste the time, right? And I mean, he was like, no, I'm sorry for the first few weeks, but then I think I got busy. I got very busy, and then I realized, okay, this was going to like impact the timeline. So I was like, okay, let me just try out the old vibe coding thing, like because suggested. So I mean, I didn't have the whole user story there from the beginning because I think it was like the project already in existence, right? So I just added it to the code, and then started asking it to add particular features. I mean, it didn't have the full picture, it just had the code base, and then we had the full picture, and then I just feature by feature, and then I realized, okay, this feature that would have taken me like the whole day, and then like 10 minutes, and then like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And, to be honest, I think I coded the rest of the platform. Like I did not write any other code myself. Or, I mean, I did, but like it was mostly vibe coded to the end of the platform. I even had, I did other stuff that they plan, like the admin interface. The admin interface should have taken us another, I don't know, few weeks, but I just did that in like 1 week, 1 day, 1 weekend. Just like, okay, we need that main platform to approve stuff. And was quite interesting because the speed it gives to engineers, it's very, very like very, that's like my best part of the whole thing. The speed it enables engineers to have. So the whole timeline thing. At a point, recently I was thinking about, okay, so when you're working with people, and to be honest, I'm even asking now, when you're working with people and then you want to give them a timeline for a job, do you give them the AI timeline or your own timeline? I'm trying to think, okay, which is you get to usual timeline? Just like as a part in before, we have to like consider that okay, you have that quality to go along with it. But then it has enabled like it was fun to work with it for the traders platform. I realized that whenever I want to jump into a new repository, you know how you basically have to first go through the code base, try to understand each component, where the flow and all of that stuff. I mean, I literally just tell the AI to just do that. To be honest, I don't even read stuff anymore. At the time, I only know stuff about the folder or the model I'm working with. I don't need to. I just have a folder picture and I only understand the module I'm working with. To be honest, because yeah, explains that, and then I just work with it. That to be honest, that's increased it has increased my efficiency by a lot. I mean, I started I worked on a project recently, and I I did not even understand some part of the code, but then I was able to add the feature I needed to add. And I started thinking, am I sure this thing is open and making me a very bad developer? I am very sure they asked me to add something to this code. I don't remember what I did, but it's working now. So I was just thinking about it. I think I've not been messaging with that. Even cool, cause see this AI thing, it's, it would not allow me get to 10x developer again. But then, yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a quite great experience. It's been good.
Okay, thank you for that. So yeah, let's hear from Ibukun.
Yeah. So as soon as you're able to jump over that mental block as a software engineer, then you would actually start to see some of the positives that you can get out of it. Like what if you have spoken about now, like the speed at which you're going to solve problems is exponential. And to add to that, what Ife also said about not being able to become a 10x and all of that. So what is going to do is, I don't think it will matter again whether you're 10x or 4x or whatever. Like, do you have system thinking, design thinking, which is also integral to like software engineering and computer science? So I actually see more opportunities for people who have gone to actually study computer science. They know how, or like engineering courses, so they know how to design things. So the AI tool, and say someone without this basic knowledge of how systems work, and me that have been doing it for like a decade, is not the same. Like the results I'll be able to get is different from someone who is just writing code for the first time. It's totally different. That because I know that okay, when you write a code, I know there's something called Git. I know there's something called CI/CD. I know there's something called the infrastructure. I know there's something called security. I know that okay, when you push your code to GitHub, you don't push your .env file. You don't push secret files to your GitHub repository. I even know what a GitHub repository is. Then I know that, okay, there's something called CI/CD where I probably want to build my code. I want to write some unit tests, some integration tests, and then I want to deploy that somewhere. And then I know that, okay, when I'm deploying, I have to take into consideration security. Maybe I don't expose my AWS. I know the right way to connect to the infrastructure. I know what cloud infrastructure is. I know what AWS is and things like that. So in my own and vibe coding, maybe that's why it seems like I'm very bullish. And then someone who probably is just starting out be very skeptical about it. Like I know exactly what is supposed to happen. It's just that I'm too lazy to actually write all of these things myself, or I don't have enough time to actually start writing it myself. So I know exactly what write is. I know what the output is supposed to look like, which is very important, even when you're, and which is kind of something you also said, like you actually think about the feature and not the intricacies of how do I string all this line of code. I know what it's supposed to look like. So you actually focus on that usability and the end result rather than, okay, what goes into it. And there's also this other thing that makes people skeptical, as if we are not already, they call it AI slop. But I'm like, you've all been pushing slop with production since. Like, it's not like the code you software engineers write, or let me say all software engineers write, are perfect in the first place. They're not perfect. That's why you have to push new updates. You're pushing new updates. The updates you're pushing is not all features. You are pushing bug fixes, which means you're actually already coding slop to begin with. So was another stuff that that you had it. So it's not that serious, like the way software engineers think about it. Like you will write bugs, whether you're using AI or you're writing it yourself. So will you pick the one that allows you to do a year, 2 years work in a matter of weeks? So it's a no brainer for me. Like I'll go with it. I'm all into it. So we can talk more about some of my own projects. I don't know if you want me to continue about some of the stuff I've built, because that's all I'm doing now. I'm just vibe coding. Like I'm not writing code anymore. I'm just vibe coding.
Okay, yeah, I think we can actually even continue with that. Before that, I'd like to throw this question out. So in this era of vibe coding, you mentioned something about now, because of your background in coding, you understand some of these things, and you're able to use it more efficiently. And secondly, I think Ife was also alluding to the fact of someone that never touched, doesn't know even how to print hello world, go into prompt program, go into, let's say, even ChatGPT, ask it to design a web interface, copy the code, do .html, and there you go, a web page. So looking at those, like similar to examples, these two examples, is there a place for people to, or would you still advise people to go ahead and study computer science? Should they still go ahead and learn programming from the scratch? What is the essence of knowing the basics before the vibe kick? So if, as you're giving the examples, you can answer these questions before we move on to the bad side of vibe coding.
Yeah, like I have a not very popular opinion. Like I think a computer science degree service is now more valuable than ever in the era of vibe coding. At least until the AI is like completely take over, and then we don't need to write any piece of code again. But even that, you still need to understand how they work in case they go rogue. So like so that's it. It's still very much valuable. Like it's even more important now to, you don't have to go to school and spend 4 years, but like programs like the Keysoft Talent Academy now, with very packaged courses in which we teach you some basics of programming, will be very, very valuable to you, because now you just learn, okay, this is how I design a system. This is what I should not do. This is what GitHub is. Because anyone who takes any of their courses, that's the first thing we teach you. We teach you how to use GitHub. You know how to manage a repository and all of that. Because there's something I even noticed working with experienced people who have been in the industry 20 years. I see some people, they'll write code and then they'll put comments inside. And sometimes I review the work. Like some of these people are way, way older than me. They've been doing this long. I'm like, why are you leaving comments in your code base? You're using Git. You can check revision. You don't, if a code is not useful, but you just still want it to be there, like you can remove it. You can always check out a previous branch or like a previous commit to see what the lines of code is. So things like that is what makes it a 10x. Like if it wants to be like, you don't need to leave a code. You don't need to leave comments. There's even a popular saying that if you need to put comments in your code, that means you've not done a very good job because your functions and all of that should be clear enough for someone who's jumping into your code base to read. So I don't need to write a comment or this is what this function is doing. By the function name, the inputs, the parameters, and the output, you should know that, okay, this is what this. So even some very, very like experienced software engineers even feel that because, yeah. So, and you can even see some of these things in what AI does as well, like too many comments. So when we start talking about the bad things, because the AI is mirroring your own bad habits. And you're also now complaining, oh, he's leaving comment. Yeah, because you do that as well. That's why the AI is mimicking what you're doing. He's also mimicking the bad things you do. So yeah, but for me, like some of the things I've been able to build with uh AI, like vibe coding, for a very long time, like I'm sure it must have been like 10 years. I've been saying, oh, I'll build a website for myself, a portfolio website, everything. But I just can't bring myself to just say, okay, for the next 3 weeks, I'm going to implement my portfolio website. But with here, and I got access to like a free trial from what's the name again? This one of the
Course,
custod.
Kiro,
No, the other one.
GitHub.
The
Kiro.
I'm curious.
It's not Kiro.
Well,
There's another one. Windsoft. Yeah, yeah. I got a 30-day trial for Windsoft, and I used that to like vibe code my portfolio website. It was amazing. Like there's sometimes when you actually write the code and then you would have to throw away everything. So it works like that. So you need to be able to know what you actually want from it. Because there are sometimes it should just go off. But over time, that's like maybe like 3 months ago. It's gotten better since then. And there's so many things I've learned from that. Even at work now, some of my peers like use AI to just review your code. Like there's a GitHub Copilot. You can use to just review the code and to tell you what this code is about, give you a summary. So you don't need to review the whole code. The GitHub Copilot is just going to review it for you and they tell you, oh, fix this, fix that. But it's not there yet. It's not perfect yet. But that's because the software engineers they have are also not perfect. So it's just a mirror of what we already have. But I believe it's going to get better as as it consumes more data. But yeah, there's still some gotchas about it.
Okay, thank you for that. We've all talked about how good vibe coding is. How, in fact, I can infer from what Ibukun just said that you can actually even use vibe coding for as a peer programmer to review your code and likes. You can use vibe coding for anything, build a website, build a complex system, build an e-commerce website, and all these good stuffs. So is it that everything about vibe coding is good or not? So, starting with Mubin, what are the challenges that you faced with vibe coding? What are the gotchas that you face with vibe coding?
Okay, before I even go into the bad aspects of vibe coding, I would first like to add some few comments to what Ibukun had already said. I think there's a popular saying, if you want to stay long in your job, make sure no one else understands your code. That's the only way. Sometimes you have to make your code unreadable so that no one else can understand it and you keep your job. And
That
regarding
doesn't
the
work. That doesn't work anymore because AI will understand it. So
yeah,
find some other trick.
yeah, yeah. So I also remember like the issue of if computer science is still viable. It's like this issue of the calculator, in secondary school, used to not be allowed. We're not allowed to use calculator for a while. And after a while, they allowed us to use calculator. And
They allowed us to use adding machine first.
yeah, adding machine, not a real calculator. So I discovered personally, I didn't want to use calculators as well for math exams because I felt if I started using calculators, I would lose the ability to do some calculations in my head. And I think that's actually true because after spending a lot of time with calculators, you are not really, maybe it's only me, but I feel you kind of lose some of that ability to do some, arithmetic calculations in your head, which brings me to the negative side effects. I mean, the side effects of vibe coding is like, if you're not careful, you could start losing some of your programming skills just because the AI is there. Maybe you've not lost it, but because the AI is there, you something you can do yourself, right? It will probably take you 1 hour to do. But because you just want to vibe code, you could end up spending 6 hours, 7 hours just going over the same thing over and over again and end up wasting a lot of time. So it's a double-edged sword. It has a lot of positives, but you could literally waste a lot of your time. Because it won't tell you, no, I can't do this. I can't do this. No, I don't know about this. Even if it doesn't know, it will.
Can you tell us some of the issues you faced with vibe coding challenges?
Yeah, so for me, I think one of the first major things that I usually have to do with, because I work primarily as a front-end engineer, yeah, is the AI getting the exact so sometimes I'm so lazy that I want to convert your interface into like code, like just give you a picture, convert it to like Google. But then I realized multiple times that it doesn't exactly do that. So, like you give me one picture. I mean, some are better than others, but most times you give them a picture and it's like it's on this interface. So I'm more often than not, it's on something different. So it doesn't totally like you have to change what it was. So that's why when I was talking initially, I mentioned the fact that if you wanted to call whole idea itself, that's really what you want. You can do that, but it's hard for you to give it what you want and then it just replicates that. So that's usually like a major issue for me. So most times I build my UI components, right? I might not link them or anything, but I build like boilerplates for my UI components and then I just have to do this and do that. But then you must use this component because this is how I was. I want it to go exactly right. So that's like one issue I've faced. Yeah. Another one is I don't know, sometimes like I try to add features. I try to think of an example, but I can't really remember. But I try to add features to something, and then I don't know. It's still some coders in the process of trying to add some features, it deletes some other things. As I've not like really studied it enough to like understand what's going on. I know it's not in my head. It just like takes away some code and beats to like add some. I'm not exactly sure how to explain it right, but it still sees some code as not. It doesn't totally do what you want exactly unless you like iterate multiple times. And that's why I agree with what Mubin was saying about how something that might have taken you 1 hour, 2 hours to do, but because you want to get it done, telling you to do it, and then you realize you've been iterating over the same issue for like sometimes just yeah, it's natural language, but sometimes I get it can get quite dicey. So that's like another major like issue I face. Sometimes you have to be very explicit, like extra explicit, even though they give you context. I assume that then this thing should go with you. Or you have to be extra explicit parents. Oh, use this thing, don't use this thing, use this thing. And you have to like point on it basically. Yeah, so I think that's like the two major issues like I usually on with the vibe coding. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not magic. Yeah, yeah. I would like to add to that, and it's something I experienced. I think 2 days ago when I was trying to debug a code base, and I told it there was an issue with the output of a CLI I was working on to generate the version of that CLI. December V V and then the 1.0 dot something. And then I told it I don't want you to put the double V. And then it started rewriting files. It wrote 3 files, whereas it only had to do it in one place. So I had to tell the AI that okay, that's not very smart. Which gave me so much joy to tell the AI that. I said, "That's not very smart. You only had to change it here." Like, "Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, yeah. You're not replacing me anytime soon." I got because I was able to tell the AI that it was not smart. It just needed to change one line of code, not 3 files. So, so yeah, that gave me so much joy.
Yeah, thank you. For me, okay, for me, for an issue I have, vibe coding moves fast, but then you have to ask yourself, is fast always better? And like you type in a conversation, natural language, vibe coding understands it. I mean, tries to understand it and code it. And with the speed you're coding, is it really giving you the logic you want? And that's one of the major issues I've experienced because I also use it not just I've used vibe coding to do a lot of stuff, but uh, based on what I want, what should be the output. By the time I type in what I ask it to, okay, give me something, it does completely different. And then I'm like, can't you even understand what I'm typing? Try to understand what I'm saying.
It doesn't understand logic.
No,
It doesn't
it gives
understand
weak
logic.
logic. Yeah, and
Even if it mimics logic, it's just mimicking something that's already been written. It's just generating the next thought. It's not that it understands that logic.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and for me, I just believe that that's a speed trap. And so instead of always vibe coding, take a moment. I used to advise, even I've advised some talent and understand the basics. After understanding the basics, you can vibe code all you want. Why? Because you need to really be able to write your algorithm, write your logic. Let's use logic now. Write your logic, how you want it to flow, and then feed it to the feed it in natural language to the vibe code. Then is able to program or code based on that. So for me, that's just one of the major issues I've faced, that it doesn't really understand the logic I'm trying to pass on to it. So yeah, over to you. Can you, Ibukun, can you tell us some of the yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that also speaks to your question about the importance of computer science or an engineering type of degree in today's day and age, right? Because if you don't understand these things or how they work, the logic, the algorithm, or how to view these things, you are going to assume the AI is always right, and then it is not. It really is not. It is going to feed you hallucinations amongst all that other type of delicacies. So you just need to you need to know what you're doing. Yeah, those things you have to learn it. Though the way we know computer science degrees to work is going to have to change and support all of this, but yeah, they're going to be quite much
Yeah, I mean,
more
it's
important
just trying to
in
tell you
this time.
to practice ethical vibe coding, to use AI ethically. I mean, it always even in cheap ChatGPT, you always see that short message that AI can be wrong. You need to review what this thing is generating for you. Yeah, so I have like 10 guidelines because I've pushed AI to its limits, like in the last uh 2 years or whenever it became a thing. And these are some of the things I've learned. And I think if fair and moving to have mentioned some of this, like don't ask it to, in quote, build a website for me. Don't just tell it, okay, convert this. Well, it will be able to do that. Build me Facebook, right? You have to instead be, you have to be specific. Say, okay, create a landing page, or to even break it down, say, okay, create a code base for me using next.js. It has to use TypeScript. You need to set up ESLint. The folder has to be structured in this way. And then you say, okay, build a landing page for me with a nav, main, footer. The footer should be divided into 4 sections with titles in each. You see how that's very, very specific. So that's how to get. So most people who don't get the most, or who call it AI slop, is because you're treating it like it's magic. You just wish and then it just generate it for you. But you are actually, if you treat it as a peer, if you treat it as if this is just another programming language, it's not as if you're replacing it, or you're replacing yourself, but you're actually telling it, instead of you using your hand to type X greater than Y, instead of you typing it, you just say, okay, give me a function that compares X and Y, this. And then it will generate it for you. And then number 2, don't tell it to test your code, because I've tried to do that and I've thrown away like 50 files when he didn't do what I was asking. If what you mean is to run this code, ensure it doesn't break or throw errors or warnings, and verify output matches X, Y, Z. And that's another thing again, is what we call TDD, as a test driven development, where to implement a feature, you write the test case first. So that's another way to use AI to get the most out of it, like vibe coding, is to write the test, because the test has predefined inputs and expected outputs. So when, instead of you writing all the logic and all of that, because we've written a lot of code, like human beings, we've written so much code. So whatever you think you are writing, someone else probably has already written it. And that's another secret. Like the AI agents are trained on publicly available code, like open source code. So it's just checking to see if someone else has written something like what you're asking and then giving you. And I mean, we've written so much code, so probably what you're requesting it to write, someone else has already written it and it's just put it over to your side. So I call it a scam. It's a copy and paste scam. Yeah, it's just copy and paste. That's all it's doing for you. So number 3 is it doesn't truly debug, which is something we as software engineers spend a lot of time doing, debugging code. Well, it can't debug your code, which is why when I told it fix this, yeah, it went to do 3 files when the error was just on one line. It just needed to remove the extra V that I added on the one line. But it does not know that that's what it's supposed to do. So it will often rewrite the old code instead of just changing that one line. It will rewrite bunch of other things and introduce new code instead of inspecting it and fixing the existing one. So you also still need to spend time debugging your code and then, okay, the issue is in this place, go and fix this, changes and this. So I think number 4 is it struggles as the code base grows large or complex and accuracy begins to decline. And that's because there's a context window. There's so much it can fit into the context to understand what you're trying to do. So you cannot carry your whole website and then fit it into the context window and then say, oh, this is what this person is asking. So that's why you still need to break it down and isolate your code. So you don't say implement this feature. You can say, okay, design this button. Then when it is done doing that, then say, okay, connect this button to this component, and then do this step by step, exactly the way you would have done it if you were going to do it yourself. Then number 5 is know when to stop. Because I've run into this challenge working with a code base when I just kept telling it, optimize this code base, optimize this code base. Look for any dead code or unused functions and remove it. Look for this, and remove it. And you know what it did? Deleted. Times I was trying to get it to clean up my files. There are some of my files now that I've lost. Like I was trying to get it to free up space, and no, I kept saying, "Oh, you can do more, you can do more, you can do more," and then it just started deleting important files. So you know when to stop and don't over optimize with repeated prompts because it can cause you to delete or simplify essential logic. Number 6, yeah, AI isn't replacing software engineers. We've spoken about this in the past that whatever layoff is going on right now has nothing to do with AI. It's just that probably companies need to shift focus, divert money into other R&D places, or simply you are just not needed. That's just my own brutally honest opinion about that. It's not because of AI directly. I don't think we've gotten to that point yet when AI is replacing people. It amplifies your output, but still depends on human reasoning. Because, I mean, Apple also released a paper like recently when it was claiming that all this ChatGPT reasoning, blah, 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 that they're actually not doing any reasoning. So I'm still skeptical about when you say your AI is reasoning. I don't think it understands logic yet. Maybe with time, it will get to that point. Another thing I found out that it lacks access to like the latest releases or libraries since its training data may lag behind because it's been trained on a particular data set. So when new versions come out, so if you say, okay, generate a next.js app using the latest library, it won't use the actual latest library because the training data is probably from 9 months ago and new one has been released. So that's another thing you have to be careful about implementing new features because they've not been released. It has not been trained yet on that. So number 8, it performs best when you provide clear constraints, structure, file names, set outputs, expected outputs. We've spoken about that, and context. And that's why I prefer Kiro. Like I've tried to get everybody on the team to like switch to using Kiro because I think that's a differentiating thing about Kiro. Kiro is an IDE from Microsoft. I'm sorry, from Amazon, not Microsoft, from Amazon. And what it does differently is that you create docs for the agent. You create a steering doc, which boils down to what I mentioned about how it struggles when your code base becomes complex because it cannot fit in everything into that context window. We have more AI now that are like increasing the uh context window and how much you can fit into it. But with Hero, you have these docs that only just summarize the main points of your code base. So you don't have to understand everything. So it just summarizes it and then you create specs for each task. So instead of saying build a website, so you can even say build a website and then Kiro is going to generate the specs for you. Like, okay, to build a website, I need to do step A, step B, step, and then you can now choose to run each of those steps one by one. So that's another thing. Then number 9, it has no persistent memory of your files or previous sessions unless explicitly provided. So unless you attach the file to your message, it doesn't know anything about, it doesn't even understand what you're trying to achieve when you build a website for me. Okay, what kind of website? It doesn't know anything like that. So you have to tell it what you actually mean. And then finally, number 10 is it is excellent for prototyping and ideation, but human review is mandatory before production use. So this is what I personally use vibe coding to do. I don't use it to do much of like very serious production work. Is oh, you have so many ideas, but you don't have enough time. How can we quickly get started? How can we bootstrap our projects? So that's it. So we don't expect that AI is also going to replace software engineers. Like if we thought that we would be investing so much in a talent pipeline with over 70 engineers. So yeah, we are still going to need people to like understand, talk to customers, understand their pain points, empathize with people, so you can get the best result from what you're building.
All right. Thank you so much for that comprehensive list. And I hope our listeners out there would be able to pick these things and implement it in their own various capacity of programming. So thank you so much. We'll be ending the podcast with that. But before we end, I'm going to go around the table once again to ask any of the speakers today if they have any last thing to say about AI generally, about AI vibe coding. Okay, let me specify. AI can be used for many things, but AI vibe coding, starting with Mobin.
Okay, I think on the final note, I would just like to add that we need to vibe code responsibly. There's been issues of people getting their crypto or like money stolen, from using all these tools. So you need to be very careful, especially when you're using all these tools. Know the type of information you're giving to the AI, so you don't get secrets leaked. And try as much as possible to also understand what you're trying to build. Don't become too lazy by just, telling the AI to do everything for you, because you could be losing some of your valuable skills by doing that. That would be my final note.
Okay, thank you. So before I call on Ife and Ibuka, I'd just like to add a touch a little bit. And if Mubin also wants to lead on this, it's free to. So as you're giving your final note, also let us know what you think about the future of vibe coding. I mean, we are in a era in which things are moving very fast. So what should we be doing in the next couple of months to prepare us for the future of vibe coding? Yeah, over to Ife. Or do you have anything to add to that, Mubin?
Okay, to prepare yourself, you just need to keep upskilling yourself. Learn the workings of AI, learn how it works, learn cybersecurity. I think this is the most important time to actually learn cybersecurity, because the problems we're going to be having in the future from vibe coding and the whole AI boom is going to be a lot of cybersecurity issues. So I think, you should upskill yourself in those areas.
Thank you. Over to you, Ife.
Okay, so I'm just going to sort of like piggyback on what Jake said in terms of like vibe coding responsibly and stuff, so you don't lose your touch. I totally agree with that, and I'll just cite an example of something that happened to me like recently. I think it was just last week. So I had to rush a feature, implementation for a feature, and then I did it. I got it done, and then when I deployed that, one of the users asked me that, okay, does this system cater for this need? And then when he asked me the question, I realized I implemented a feature, but I didn't even check through the code to see the possibilities, right? So I wasn't even sure if the system does what it was asking, because I only tested it from the UI parts based on the rush. And then I had to like go and check the code again, realized, okay, it caters for this edge case and the likes. But basically, I realized I had built something that I wasn't even entirely sure of the total like possibilities of that feature. And it made me realize, okay, if you continue like that, you just realize you don't even read stuff anymore. You don't even check out what you're building anymore. Then you are losing some sort of like touch in terms of your whole engineering process. So, of course, please, as much as we want to increase speed, efficiency, and all of that, let's also strike a balance and make sure you're checking through some of these things and you stay sharp. Like just stay sharp. Vibe coding is here to stay, like we mentioned. you also need to learn stuff. When thinking about some things that people need to maybe go into studying, and to be honest, systems design, like building architectures, I know for me, I feel like it's going to be like a huge part of tech to learn because that's what you're going to explain. That's what you're going to need to break down to the AI when you eventually need to write code. So I think alongside cybersecurity and other things that have been mentioned, I need to totally double down on systems design, architectures and all that stuff. And yeah, I think that'll be all for
All right. Thank you for that. So, people can go ahead.
Yeah, security and with quantum computing on the horizon as well, it's
Yes.
going to be a very, very big thing because now all your cryptography and all of that can be broken with
Yeah.
with a quantum computer. So probably need to start thinking of how to secure data. And yeah, I think that's another part of the job we need to figure out.
And so, just to emphasize on that, there's a mandate that is being released now that everything must be post quantum secure. So, like all your cryptography algorithm now, Microsoft came up with a quantum chip that's I mean the first one on first one released to the public, or the first one that public can know more about, right? Because I don't know if there's some inner workings, I don't know, some underground things that have been done. So about with that, you can decrypt some more things faster. So which means that, just to emphasize, even the coding we're doing is based on what, like we've said, open source code. And with the open source code, that means it's easily breakable. So what you're developing, if you don't go way deep and better in the security, that means some of your users' data will probably get stolen and the likes. And for me, my final note will just be that this is where your creativity should kick in more. Instead of, yes, learn basics, but be more creative in your thinking. At least till now, I don't think AI can take over the human reasoning, the logic, just as we've emphasized. So this is when you can be more creative, and once you are creative with your thinking, you can execute. You can use AI to execute it faster, and you can see you becoming 10x, as we've said. Thank you, everybody, for joining this episode once again. We appreciate your presence, and we happen to see you in the next 2 weeks, where we'll be coming up with a very interesting topic for you to learn from. So thank you.